hands-on at the local communities. So we know there's a very active local municipality that is looking into this. We also know there's a small town running on district heating, fully on geothermal. So this is just one example. But what we also managed in the past, in the recent period, is that there is a strategy, an R&D strategy, which has climate, energy, and mobility as a pillar. So I hope that with this sort of policy incentives and with this sort of pilots project that we're seeing, and with the knowledge that there is potential, that this will speed up soon enough. But of course, there's yet studies to be made, the potential to be understood, the risk to be evaluated, and so on and so forth. But there's another innovative technology I may add, if that, from your perspective, that's innovative, and that's offshore wind. Wave would be also one, not tidal though, but there is potential because Romania also has access to the Black Sea. So I think given a country like Romania where the biodiversity is so rich, I think we can look at more technologies. At this point, these are not in the main strategies, but again, there's space, there's policy space, and the regulatory details have yet to be defined.
We're reserving some minutes to look into space before this, because what we're trying to do is basically take the lessons learned at the European level with the 5% quota, with other kind of innovative policy elements, and make them available after this panel as well, because we always receive interest on that. I would like to ask, and we've heard from Johanna already and Elena just now, what would you wish for? It could be one agenda point, it could be 2 or 3. So what would you wish for to drive, to give these types of flexibility tools, innovative types of technologies a better chance? We've heard a very specific step just now from Johanna and from Elena as well. But if I can hear from all of you, really short statement, please. What would you wish for to drive things faster? Martin, can you start, please?
I'm saying that being a male, I wish that we would think much more connected than we actually do, and I wish that we would think much more, let's say, what's right in the long term, rather than being driven by quarterly, let's say, progress for capital markets, rather than legislational periods. What stick with me very much is what Johanna said about the other delegation, to really have a council that is, so to speak, giving advice on the long run. What's right on the long run, and how can we execute that, despite all the frictions that are hitting us on a timely basis in between, and really think much more connected, as males usually don't do. This is why I said that, and think much more connected between ecosystems. I think that is, from my perspective, key.
Over to Sun Yang.
Yes,
thank you, Martin.
Thank you. I think my thoughts are actually quite similar. I talked about ecosystem linkages earlier, because I think there's a lot of good initiative already happening in different pockets in the ecosystem. So if a ferry were to come to me and ask, is this the ferry question?
This is the ferry question,
If the ferry were to come to me, I think I would ask for a, what do you call it? Like when you're on a ship and you're like a navigator or a compass. And if a person has a question, how do I solve this clean tech market-related question, that there would be a compass that points to go to this ecosystem player, actor, and that is the person responsible for this type of, accountable to resolve this issue. So I think, at least from the experience that we have as UNIDO, this is the challenge that a lot of entrepreneurs face, but also it's a frustration that a lot of government officials have as well, because in some countries, these interministerial panels are very well connected. In other countries, they exist, but they may not be as well connected. So something that can facilitate the navigation and the connection better, I think that would be really great.
Thank you. Elena, more thoughts to add?
Yes. I think as we move ahead, and we know that there's funding available, I think we know about the modernization fund for the coal phase out. There's the innovation fund. There are various funds available. But moving forward, we know we have also to make sure that everyone is on board. We don't leave really no one behind. And in that sense, the social climate fund will be available soon for us. So we need to figure that out as well. How we help the most vulnerable businesses and the most vulnerable citizens. And here for the ferry, I will have the visual about heating, especially heating. Cooling is less of a problem in Romania for now, though with climate change that's changing. So how do we help people that need the most support in terms of heating, especially those that rely on biomass? So here the thing is really about that and transport, but also the interlinkage, I think the nexus. Here there's space to do more in the sense that we will decarbonize transport. It will be a hard challenge, but how do we make sure that does not put pressure on the power sector? So this is the one nexus, and the second nexus would be between the power sector and the digital space. So in that sense, in Romania, we do have, in the past year at least, a lot of uptake of solar PV. So this puts pressure on the grid. So we do have almost 100,000 prosumers. And the question is, how do we make sure that green and digital, because we do good and green in digital, but this nexus would be great to have, to have more conversations around the intersection of both. Thank you.
Johanna, final thoughts here.
This is going to be a slightly long-winded answer because I need to elaborate a little bit what I mean. So I think there's a fine balance between regular renewables that we've got down the cost curve very far and they're very cheap to deploy, and that's great. And I think we don't need investment in innovation just to have something different. So we should talk about why do we want to invest in innovative renewables. And I think there's two good reasons for it. One is to get the load factors up, so make them more efficient. And the other one is to get a different generation profile because solar or wind are highly correlated. So you have that intermittency problem. So I think I would like to focus on innovation in renewables that really solves one of these two problems, higher load factor or better smoothing of the profile. And my wish for the ferry in that sense would be well-functioning power markets design everywhere and maybe nodal pricing, so you actually have an incentive for investing in better renewables profiles and smoothing out the intermittency as opposed to just, I don't want to say investing in nutcase technologies, but we don't need innovation for innovation's sake. We need innovation to solve very specific problems with renewables.
Great, all noted. Now, this is a good example because what Johanna's mentioning, of course, it only makes sense to invest in something that's creating value. But sometimes we need the far out ideas. I mean, think of, some of you might still remember the 2000s or maybe the late 1990s or so, all the opposition that came everywhere against solar power, for example. We had in Germany, for example, campaigns paid for by the big utilities, especially the lignite burning and producing utilities. Forget it, it's never going to work. I mean, so some of the things sound very far out in the first place. And I'd like to take you, or I'd like to ask Martin to take you to space for a second. This is a very far out technology. Martin has collaborated with the European Space Agency for a long time on this. Please give us an overview, and I have to click forward as well on this. Give us an overview of what this is and how this maybe could work.
Yeah, thank you very much for that. Maybe before I even start explaining it, coming back to interconnectedness and coming back to load factor and shapes. The way I try to look at things is, if I look at a system, I try to identify what are the elements and what are the vectors that are moving along. And then I tried to take a look, what are the deeper rules that define the output of the system in order to make a quantum leap? Because otherwise you just adjust the system a bit and you change the output marginally. But if you go to the deeper rules, to the deeper paradigms, if that makes sense, then you can make the quantum leap. So sounds very abstract. What I mean is like talking really about basic stuff like, what is generally recognized? Generally recognized is generation of electricity takes place somewhere. Okay, good, somewhere on Earth. Transmission of energy is being done by cables and pipes and tanks. Okay, good. And what's also generally recognized is that decarbonization is a national task. I mean, if we look at COP, it's the structure we have chosen to resolve the problem is on a country level. So these are generally recognized things. Now, if you shake up these paradigms, there might be value in it. And I was not smart enough to do this myself. So we looked around and we thought, who's interconnectedness, who's in a best possible position to shake up these paradigms? And we came to, it's a space agency. Because in space, it's very clear you go very close to you are very close to the source. There, the dream of every PV engineer becomes true, and the dream is get close to 1,365 kilowatt, not kilowatt hour, kilowatt on the square meter. That's the solar constant. Sun is there all the time, 24/7, 365. There are some eclipses and so forth, okay? But it's there all the time. So instead of increasing efficiency down here, it's about going closer to where it actually comes from. So that's a quantum leap. The next thing is, for a space agency, it's super normal not to think in cables and pipes. Because it's a very complex construct for them. What's easy for us down on Earth, for them it's super complicated. And for them, looking from space down to Earth, national borders are a very abstract construct. So to cut a long story in short, this is not a conceptual paper. You can go online and find it under Space by Solar Power. There are prototypes in place. Maybe we could just go back one slide, and I would just stick to that slide. So how it works is you collect the photons from the sun. You reflect the sun. There's 10 times more sun than down here. You reflect them on reflectors that you can condense it by the factor of 3. Then you reflect them on let's say conventional space-proofed PV panels, convert the photons into electrons. Then you convert the electrons into microwaves. That's basically the same process that you're doing in your microwave. And then you send the microwaves down to Earth. And one would intuitively think, oh, okay, and then I lose all the energy, right? And actually, since microwaves are not interacting much with what they meet, because the bandwidth of the frequency is so large. This is why you can actually use a microwave in your kitchen, and it's not dangerous. It's a bit different with a laser. So you don't laser your food in a microwave. You use microwaves, and then you collect the microwaves on Earth with a very simple structure. It's a dipolic antenna. It's the same structure that you used to have on your house roofs for analogous television. So it's a very simple thing. It's basically a mesh of grid, and then you feed it back into the system.
I have a question.
Yes.
Great, thank you for this overview. Now, if you were to again zoom out and minding what we just discussed, how far is it? Because obviously this has a high risk of not becoming a relevant technology even in 50 years or so. But take the positive stance and maybe you sort of zoom out and think, what does this tell us? Where is it right now? And what does this tell us about developing these kinds of technologies in a way, as Johanna has pointed out, that makes sense in the end and create value? Yeah. And please mind, we have 2 more minutes. Alex is sitting here. He'll throw us out.
Excellent. So I'll make it very quick. Maybe 2-3 points. First is, it's really not, it's early stage, but still not very conceptual anymore, in that sense that all the space agencies are working on it for quite a long time. The only thing is, it was just never profitable due to the high launching costs. And also something very interesting that I have encountered, my brain is full of electrons and molecules. If I talk to space people, they don't even care. They think in kilograms. So for them, the decisive number is how much is the weight, because the weight defines the costs, because it defines the number of launches. So this has come down significantly. Second thing is, since they all have been working on it for quite some time, the first prototypes I have seen on Earth for the transmission, it's very impressive. Besides that, you don't see anything, but it's working. And then the US has launched a first prototype now, so it's really tangible. And the beauty of that thing is, it's not, how shall I put it? It's not very complicated in that sense that the single components are unclear, like compared to fusion, for example. Here, it's much more the challenge to scale that installation in space. Mm-hmm. That is the challenge. So prototype is there, scaling is the next challenge, and recognition by the institutions that this could be a very valuable addition for the second 50% of the energy transition.
Maybe in the second half of the century as well. We will see.
Honestly, hopefully beforehand, I would count on the 2030s to see the first installation.
That's a bold statement. Now, I'm wrapping up in 20 seconds, Alex. Thank you very much, everybody, for coming here. We'd like to invite you for further discussions next year at the Future Cleantech Festival, the ARC. There's, as many of you have been there, there's a second session this afternoon at 2 p.m. here in the Global Innovation Hub again on global RD&D priorities together with UN Climate Change Tech Team. Please give these panelists a warm applause for turning up early in the morning here and competing with the sound from the other unit next door. Thank you all for being here, and now it's another interesting session, and Alex will say more on this. Thank you very much.
يعني نحن الشعب الصيني يلتزم بالاستراتيجية التنموية. ممكن نحكي في جملة يعني المياه الصافية والجبال الخضراء هي الذهب والفضة.
هي الذهب والفضة. نعم صحيح.
يعني لا نستطيع، لا يمكننا أن نركز على كسب المال ويعني يعني الفلوس فقط.
نعم.
هذا البيئة، هذا شيء، هذا نعيش على هذا الأساس. فممكن يعني لو سافرتم إلى الصين ستجد في مدن كبيرة وأيضا في القرى ستجد السيارات نسميه سيارات بالطاقة الجديدة كثيرة. أنا لدي رقم يعني حتى يونيو من هذا العام في الصين قد تجاوز إجمالي عدد السيارات المتجددة الطاقة.
يعني بدأت الناس تقبل عليها.
نعم، تقبل عليها كثيرا. أكثر من
الصين أيضا رائدة في صناعة السيارات الصديقة للبيئة أستاذ جعفر، والحكومة أيضا وضعت يعني أمور تحفيزية للتجار وللأفراد حتى يمتلكوا مثل هذه السيارات.
نعم. لو يعني اشتريت السيارات هذه نوع من السيارات سوف تحصل على تعويض من الحكومة يعني مالي للشراء هذا النوع من السيارات. وأيضا ستجد الحكومة تهتم بتركيب المحطة الشحن في الشوارع في الأحياء الشعبية، هذا لتسهيل استخدامها. فأيضا يعني استخدام هذا النوع من السيارات يعني يكلف أقل من بالوقود يعني الأحفورية.
تكلفة على الفرد تقصد؟
نعم.
لأنه تكلفة أقل من السيارات على الطاقة
بالعادية بالسيارات العادية. يعني
إقبال كبير من الناس عليها.
أستاذ
جعفر، هذه بحد ذاتها مسألة تعتمد على ثقافة الفرد وعلى تحمله أيضا للمسؤولية، لأن المسؤولية ليست فقط على الدول والحكومات والشركات، وإنما أيضا على الأفراد. الأفراد لهم دور في مجال حفظ البيئة والمحافظة عليها للأجيال القادمة. كيف تعتقد اليوم وأين ترى دور الإعلام في نشر هذا الفكر النير؟
أعتقد يعني أهم شيء يعني تعزيز الوعي للأجيال القادمة لحماية البيئة لتوفير الطاقة. مثلا في بيتي أنا أعلم يعني ابنتي يعني توفير المياه. ممكن بعد الغسل للخضار أو يعني الفواكه ممكن نستخدمها في دور المياه. وأيضا صحيح. يعني عندما نذهب إلى السوبر ماركت ممكن نأخذ الكيس بأنفسنا، ليس نطلب الكيس من السوبر ماركت. وحتى في الفندق أنا أقيم فيها في الإمارات أنا وجدتهم لقد تم تغيير بطاقة دخول الغرفة من البلاستيك إلى المواد الخشبية.
نعم.
هذا أيضا يعني
قابلة للتدوير
يعني يساعد على تخفيض انبعاثات الكربون. هذا يعني أعتقد هي الممارسات الفردية في الحياة العادية واليومية. هذا يمثل يعني وعينا وجهودنا المبذولة لحماية البيئة.
لا شك ذكرت نقطة الوعي والثقافة الشخصية للإنسان حينما يكون عارفا بما يحدث في الكرة الأرضية، وأن هناك انبعاثات كربونية تؤثر على الغلاف الجوي وبالتالي تؤثر على التنفس وتؤثر على الزراعة وتؤثر ذلك يؤثر على كل قطاعات العالم. لا شك بأن هذه النقطة جدا مهمة. أريد أن أنتقل إلى مسألة التنظيم أستاذ جعفر اليوم في دولة الإمارات كما تعرفون، وأنتم طبعا لكم خبرة كبيرة في دولة الإمارات. تنظيم المؤتمرات العالمية، ولا شك بأن جمهورية الصين أيضا لها خبرات واسعة وكبيرة أيضا في هذا المجال. كيف وأنتم بالذات أستاذ جعفر لكم أيضا مشاركات عالمية ليس فقط في دولة الإمارات على مستوى الإعلام ونقل التغطيات، كيف تجد اليوم تغطية دولة الإمارات العربية المتحدة للنسخة 28 لمؤتمر الأطراف؟
التنظيم يعني شيء رائع ومنظم كل شيء يعني على ما يرام. أنا أقصد يعني ليس فقط خلال هذه الدورة يعني COP28. منذ أنا وصلت إلى الإمارات قبل سنتين
ما شاء الله.
منذ وصولنا إلى الإمارات لاحظت يعني هذه الدولة تهتم بالحفاظ على البيئة، يعني حماية البيئة. وأنا شاركت في نهاية شهر سبتمبر كان المنتدى الإعلام العربي أيضا تم إقامتها في دبي.
صحيح.
لاحظت قد بدأ استخدام السيارات الكهربائية كالسيارات العمل خلال هذه الفعاليات، وأيضا خلال الجلوبال ميديا كونغرس قبل الأيام التي أيضا تم إقامتها في أبو ظبي. تحدثنا مع زملائنا الإعلاميين كثيرا بخصوص الموضوع تغير المناخ وكيف الإعلام يعني يقدم مساهمات لتعزيز الوعي الشعبي لحماية البيئة. فهذه يعني فعاليات أنا شاركت فيها. كل هذه يمثل دليل أن هذه الدولة قد بدأت هذه الأعمال الحقيقية منذ وقت طويل، ليس فقط من أجل هذه الدورة COP28.
يعني أستاذ جعفر، أنت في دولة الإمارات الآن صار لك سنتين.
نعم.
وكيف إقامتك في دولة الإمارات؟ كيف تجدها؟
حياة سعيدة وكل شيء يعني بتنظيم سليم، وممكن بالنسبة لنا أنا أستطيع أن يعني أشوف كيف يعيش يعني الجاليات والجنسيات المختلفة في دولة واحدة، وهم هناك تعايش وتسامح بين مختلف الجنسيات في هذه الدولة.
الإمارات ترفع علم التسامح وراية التسامح عاليا أستاذ جعفر كما تعرفون، وجمهورية الصين الشعبية أيضا كذلك الأمر. دولة الإمارات عندنا أكثر من 200 جنسية تعيش بفضل الله بأمن وأمان وسلام واستقرار. وكما تشاهدون أيها السادة المشاهدون الكرام، والأستاذ جعفر أيضا على الهواء مباشرة من طبعا هذه بعض اللقطات في داخل إكسبو دبي للمؤتمر 28 لكوب، طبعا مؤتمر الأطراف. نجد هنا الإعلام لمختلف دول العالم، أكثر من 198 دولة مشاركة في هذا المؤتمر الكبير. يبدأ دخول الزوار من الساعة 9 صباحا، ويستمر دخولهم لحضور الجلسات الحوارية المختلفة، وحضور أيضا الفعاليات المختلفة المتعلقة بالفن والمسرح وغيرها من الأمور. والأجواء بفضل الله في دولة الإمارات اليوم أجواء لطيفة، الأجواء جيدة والحمد لله رب العالمين. يعني عندما نرى مثل هذه المناظر أستاذ جعفر نشعر حقيقة بالسعادة لاحتضان بداية دولة الإمارات هذا المؤتمر الكبير، وللتنظيم المتميز والبنية التحتية أيضا المتواجدة التي نجدها حينما يدخل الضيف أو الزائر إلى كوب 28.
نعم.
يجد موقف السيارات، ثم يجد الباص الذي ينقله بشكل مباشر إلى البوابة التي يبحث عنها، ومن ثم أيضا هناك التاكسيات، السيارات الجولف هذه الصغيرة التي تنقله إلى أماكن مختلفة. وهذا كله متعلق بالتنظيم. التنظيم جدا مهم لنجاح أي مؤتمر، وخصوصا مثل هذه المؤتمرات التي يعني يحدث فيها كثير من الأمور المهمة المتعلقة بالتجارة والمتعلقة بالمناخ والمتعلقة بأمور كثيرة مفصلية. تكلمنا عن دور الإعلام أستاذ جعفر، لكن في نهاية هذا اللقاء وفي نهاية هذا يعني الدقائق هذه المعدودة، ما هي الرسالة التي تحب أن توجهها للسادة المشاهدين عبر قناتكم أستاذ جعفر، قناة الإمارات؟
يعني أريد يعني أنا كالإعلامي مقيم في دولة الإمارات المتحدة، يعني أريد أن أقدم أكثر من يعني مزيد من الجهود وأيضا مساهمات باعتبار الإعلامي الصيني لتعزيز التعاون، أيضا تعارف بين الشعب الصيني والشعب الإماراتي. وأيضا أنا يعني دائما أشارك في الفعاليات الإعلامية، وأيضا أشارك في التغطية الإخبارية لما تحدث في هذه الدولة الجميلة. فأريد أن أنتهز يعني حياتي وإقامتي في هذه الدولة، أن يعني أتعرف على مزيد من الأصدقاء الإماراتيين وأيضا الأصدقاء الإعلاميين من دولة الأخرى، حتى تعزيز يعني كيف أقول نشارك التجربة وتجارب إعلامية بيننا.
أستاذ جعفر، شكرا جزيلا لحضورك وإعطائنا هذا الوقت الثمين من وقتكم حتى نعرض للسادة المشاهدين ما يحدث هنا طبعا في كوب 28. الأستاذ جعفر وان، رئيس قسم التعاون الدولي للمكتب الإقليمي لمجموعة الصين للإعلام في الشرق الأوسط، شكرا جزيلا لكم.
شكرا دكتور مصطفى. شكرا.
وشكر لكم أيضا مشاهدينا الكرام على حسن المتابعة. لكم مني تحيات، ولمخرج هذه الفقرة الأستاذ عبد الله الأحمدي. وننتقل بشكل مباشر الآن إلى الاستوديو في أبو ظبي.
شكرا لك دكتور موسى الزبيدي، بيض الله وجهك أنت وضيفك الكريم، يعطيك ألف عافية. وين وصلنا؟
اليوم غاية بتزين الكيكة، يلا.
نحن وانتي تزينين، الشيف منى بس بتقولنا شو سوينا اليوم على السريع، وين المسخن وين
هذا المسخن سوينا روليه على قولته هو بالفرنسي، هني الدياي الكشميري.
ايوه.
وهني الشوكليت اللي تزينه غاية.
اعطيه جنسية بعد دام هذا فرنسي وهذا كشميري، كيك شو؟
والله هو صار حق كل حد، صار حق اولاد.
انا اللي عرفت ان غاية تعرف تسوي سويتات وكيك. غاية شو تسوين من الكيكات؟
يعني اسوي كيكات، كراميل كيك،
بعد
بودينج.
يا سلام.
في رمضان تكوني بالمطبخ واقفة ولا اللحظات الأخيرة؟
يعني
ولا هم حتكون عدان باب المطبخ بس كذي؟ شو طابخين اليوم؟ زين، نحن نبغى ندوق طبعا. انا لو تعطيني اول المسخن الروليت مسخن على قولة مستر غدي، روليت مسخن. شوكة
اي خشوقة
شطورة هاي
اللي موجود.
for me, so this is also absolutely wonderful. Next, we'll hear from Jorge Moreira da Silva, who is Executive Director of UN Operations, UNOPS, about the role that UNOPS is playing in the energy transition.
I think it's okay. Yeah. Thank you, Jeff. I think that we really need to congratulate JEDCO for their analysis, and we need a serious conversation about infrastructure. I've been attending the COPs since '99 at the age of 28 in different capacities, and we've been overlooking the role of infrastructure in energy access and on climate action. From research that UNOPS and Oxford University has conducted, we know that 92% of the SDGs, the goals and the targets, depend on infrastructure. So unless we get it right, we will not succeed on the SDGs. And 79% of the current emissions are related with infrastructure. And infrastructure cannot be confused with supply. It's true that we need to decarbonize. We need to get three times renewable energy by 2030. We need to increase energy efficiency by 4% a year till 2030. We need to have 18 times more electrical mobility. But we also need to address the grid, the role of the grid, the role of the interconnection. As Jeff knows, that we have been discussing this for many times, I'm coming from a country, I served as minister in Portugal on environment and energy, a country that succeeded in getting 60% of electricity from renewables. In some parts of the year, we even get 100%, 3-4 months, 100%. What's the problem? We have not been able to export to the rest of Europe our capacity, the same with Spain, because we are not sufficiently connected. The same happens in other parts of the world. So we really need to go further on interconnections, which means that we need to take full benefit of the role of interconnections to expand renewable energy. That's the first thing. So we can really reduce the emissions through the interconnections. Then, as Tatiana mentioned, the security. Being interconnected means a lot, particularly when some countries are under conflict. The same when it comes to cost reduction. In Europe, we have done some analysis that with a full interconnected Europe, we would have $40 billion savings for the economy, compared with existing no connected or little connection in Europe. Finally, the role of Africa, for instance, 60% of all solar potential is in Africa, but Africa cannot provide energy to the continent and even to other parts of the world because the interconnections are very little. And finally, to eradicate poverty and inequalities, additional interconnections are needed. So in a nutshell, I would say interconnections must be at the core. Let's take benefit of the ongoing technology on storage, on smart grids, on mini grids, and also on HVDC, which offers lots of opportunities. Thank you.
Wonderful. That's a great summary, George, and from your personal leadership experience. Next, we'll hear from Ms. Sanda Ojiambo, who is the Executive Director of the UN Global Compact, on how the UN interfaces with the private sector, how the UN can help the private sector, what the private sector needs to be doing.
Great, thank you, Jeff, and really great comments from the previous panelists. First, let me just also join in thanking GEDCO for putting together this very insightful session. You know, I was in China just about a month ago and visited their offices and facilities, and you know, as has been shown on the screen, I mean, the work is absolutely tremendous in terms of building the much-needed interconnectivity around energy. So Jeff, to your question, I mean, and I'll just zero in on energy and where we are. You know, the private sector plays a sort of 360 role in this. I mean, many people say, yes, we do need energy to power forward and grow economies, but at the same time, the private sector is an intricate player in actually how energy connectivity, energy supplies, value addition and transmission should work. So, this is an area that is close to our heart and close to a lot of the work that we do. There's also the element of, financing around climate and energy and what should be happening around there as well. Overall, what I would like to say, and, some of our learnings and from our discussions with GuideCos, a couple of things. I think, first of all, for us to get to where we need to get to on these transitions, energy being really critical, is a whole analysis of what the whole energy infrastructure looks like, where the incentives are placed, and how that can work to the benefit for the private sector and certainly for public sector as well. A lot of our work with CEOs, they'll mention that, moving forward in renewables is a great business opportunity, but at present, there aren't enough incentives being channeled to allow private sector to invest sustainably and at scale in the renewable energy industry. So our call and some of the work we've been doing with private sector here is really working with government and trying to understand how we can get through those impediments to allow a lot more financing, a lot more innovation, and a lot more incentivization of growing the energy space. I think secondly is, and if I reflect a little bit broad on the state of the world, business grows across borders, energy too should grow across borders. So a lot of our business leaders are concerned about the fractured world that we're in and the impact that has not only on business, but on driving forward relationships, energy connectivity, and interconnectedness across states. The fragility of the North-South divides, I think you just mentioned the challenges on the African continent and the inability to really rise to the opportunities that we have to power the African continent, to invest in the African continent, and many areas of the developing world that so much need energy to move forward. I think the third is really and I think GuideCo showed this very well, the opportunity to really bring forward public-private partnerships at scale and scope. And I think that's what we really will need to be able to drive forward the immense success that we've seen from the GuideCo examples, not only in China, but certainly globally. So ours is one around, let's put the incentives in the right place, but also the multilateral and multi-stakeholder environment needs to be absolutely correct, Jeff, to get all actors in there to demonstrate their part and leverage all of the resources that exist.
Fantastic. Well, thanks to a wonderful panel, and I think we hear a resounding confirmation of the fundamental GuideCo concept that we need interconnection across space and across sectors to make this work. So thank you very much to the panel, and thank you very much to GuideCo.
Thank you so much. Let's take a group photo. But while we wait for the group photo, let's welcome Ms. Daniela Violetti, Senior Director of Program Coordination, United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change Secretariat.
Thank you. Good afternoon to all of you, and great pleasure on behalf of the UNSCC Secretariat to be here with you in this important event and saying a few final words before the closing. Well, first of all, I think there is no question about the urgency and the need of taking immediate action. But what I think is very important and emerging at this moment in time is to find the right solutions to address the urgency in addressing the climate crisis, in addressing the energy transition, in addressing the goals relating to mitigation, to ensure that we can remain on the target for the goals of the Paris Agreement. Here at the COP, we had a very positive start of the sessions. Important achievements have already been realized. And we hope that now, getting to the intense final days of the negotiation, we can keep the same momentum also relating to, in particular, the first global stock take. Now, the first global stock take will inform action for the next few years, and again, where it will be important to see a solution. So we have been listening to GuideCo outcomes in terms of research and solutions to be identified, and really going towards a just, resilient energy transition. So let me just touch upon a few points relating to promoting energy interconnection. This is a very important role that can be played in the process, and the establishment of interconnected energy networks can contribute to the large-scale exploitation of efficient allocation of renewable energy, narrow the energy access gap, and stabilize energy prices while ensuring energy security. So I think it's very important that all these global efforts made toward interconnected and intelligent zero-carbon energy system are carried forward, are taken as an example to move ahead in looking at these very important clean solutions. So, but also these are offering, and as we mentioned just now in the panel, how these can help those countries who are in more difficulties to have access to this solution and resources, to have access to this, to contribute and play also the role they have, not only because they are affected by the impacts of climate change, but also because they can contribute. So at the end, putting low carbon and sustainable development at the center of action is important, and we have been listening and welcoming all the effort by GAICO, and on the UNFCCC side I can only say that we are looking forward to continue our collaboration, and thank you again for attending this event. Thank you very much.
各位嘉宾、女士们、先生们、朋友们，收看视频的
Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, and our dear audience online, those of you who are committed to energy transition and fighting climate change. So today we had an in-depth discussion on this very important topic, ensuring inclusive, just, and resilient energy transition. So we exchanged ideas and built on our consensus, and we have contributed our solution and wisdom to our shared goals. So tomorrow, at the pavilion of the WMO, we have another side event, and I'd like to invite all of you to the event, in person or virtually. And a big thank you to all the speakers and all of you who are here in the room, and also for those who are tuning in today. Thank you very much for your participation and your support. Let's take a family photo together.
في الفنادق والمطاعم، لأننا نهدف إلى تغيير سلوك المستهلكين والمستخدمين، وربما بيسمع أن نراها أيضا في بعض الفنادق. ولكن هذه العملية وهذه الرحلة لا تزال في بدايتها، فنحن شركة رائدة صغيرة انطلقت أعمالها في شهر مارس، فنحن هنا لتوسيع نطاق عملائنا ولتغيير أيضا طريقة استهلاك في منطقة الخليج.
ما صحة المعلومة التي تقول بأن المزارع الحيوانية هي أحد أكبر مصادر غاز الميثان؟
نعم بالطبع، هذا الأمر صحيح. فمؤخرا أجرينا دراسات لدورة الحياة. هذه هي دراسة لدورة الحياة أو أداة علمية نستخدمها في مجالات الغذاء لتقييم التأثير البيئي. وهنا في دول الخليج كنا أول ما نقوم بهذه الدراسة لنقارن ما بين التأثير البيئي للحوم النباتية واللحوم الحيوانية، وبوسعنا أن نرى فرقا شاسعا مثلا في اللحوم أو في الدجاج النباتي الذي نصنعه، فإن الانبعاثات الكربونية أقل ب4 أضعاف و12 ضعفا أقل مقارنة باللحوم الحيوانية. هذا الأمر ينطبق أيضا على الكثير من المجالات الأخرى، فمثلا حبوب الفاصوليا التي تستخدم في هذا في تصنيع هذه اللحوم، عندما نزرعها في الأرض فإنها تخزن النيتروجين، وهذا الأمر يستخدم أو يعيد تكرار التربة، فنحن أيضا نساعد التربة على التعافي بعد عمليات الزراعة وبعد استخدام هذه الحبوب.
هل لديكم لحوم دجاج ولحوم عادية في اللحوم المصنعة؟
نعم، استثمرنا في التكنولوجيا التي تسمح لنا بإنتاج العديد من الخيارات اللحومية القائمة على الأساس النباتي، فإننا نرى هنا استخداما كبيرا للحوم في المنطقة، ويستخدم الفرد أقل 50 كيلو من اللحوم في المنطقة. لذا أردنا أن نقدم أكبر أو أفضل نسخة من الدجاج النباتي وننتجه هنا في مصنعنا، وننظر أيضا في إنتاج اللحوم أو الأسماك النباتية وغيرها، وننظر أيضا في الجيل التالي من اللحوم النباتية التي لن تحاكي فقط طعم اللحوم، ولكن نهدف إلى تعزيز هذه المقاربة.
أتمنى لكم كل التوفيق والجميع شركاء في المحافظة على البيئة. السيدة فاليريا فلاديميروفنا كرينيتسكايا، رئيس قسم المنتجات النباتية في مجموعة إفكو العالمية، شكرا جزيلا لك سيدة فاليريا.
شكرا لكم على الاستضافة.
الآن وصلنا معكم مشاهدينا إلى ختام هذه الفترة من تغطية شبكة أبو ظبي للإعلام من استديوهاتنا في مدينة إكسبو لفعاليات اليوم السادس من النسخة 28 من مؤتمر الأطراف اتفاقية الأمم المتحدة الإطارية بشأن تغير المناخ COP 28. ويمكنكم استكمال متابعة تغطية شبكة أبو ظبي للإعلام لقمة المناخ من خلال خدماتنا الإخبارية عبر كافة المنصات على مدار الساعة. دمتم بحفظ الله ورعايته، في أمان الله.
نعيش حاليا في فترة بتغير مستقبل المهن للأبد. وكلنا نحس بأن وظائفنا مهددة بسبب الثورة الصناعية الرابعة. أنا ناصر سعيد، سنبحث معا كيف بيكون مستقبلنا لمحاولة الإجابة على سؤال ما العمل؟
ما العمل؟ الجمعة 7 مساء على قناة الإمارات.
مشاهدينا الأعزاء، أهلا ومرحبا بكم معنا مباشرة في هذه التغطية الخاصة من مركز الاتحاد للأخبار لننقل لكم وقائع انعقاد القمة الخليجية 44 لقادة دول مجلس التعاون لدول الخليج العربية التي تعقد اليوم في دولة قطر الشقيقة. إذا نحن معكم من مركز الاتحاد للأخبار، وقمة مهمة استثنائية في توقيت تمر به المنطقة والإقليم سياسيا بظروف استثنائية وسط مخاوف بلا شك من اتساع رقعة الصراع في غزة ليشمل دولا في المنطقة. إذن أهمية هذه القمة جوانبها الاقتصادية المختلفة الاستراتيجية. العالم بلا شك يشهد تحولات غير مسبوقة في عالم الاقتصاد والأعمال